British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says the UK is taking radical action on migration. The government's now aiming for 300,000 fewer migrants than last year. Sunak announced plans to slash the number of migrants arriving by legal routes Monday, raising the minimum salary they must earn in a skilled job by a third. That all comes as the Prime Minister is facing pressure to tackle record net migration figures. We're going to talk a bit more about all this now with Arnaud Pedram from our sister website, Info Migrants. Hi, Arnaud. Thank you for coming on the set. First of all, let's talk about these new measures that are targeting regular migration.
Yeah, so this is in the context of the Labour being very high in the poll, the rival party to Rishi Sunak's. So the Tories are trying to get back any way they can, and that being hardline on immigration. And so there are two main measures that were announced. He wants to raise the minimum wage requirement for a work visa from £26,000 to £39,000. So right now, if you're working in the UK, if you want to have a visa, you need your employer to offer you a job. That's about £26,000 a year. That's about the median wage in the UK. So that's a huge increase from 26 to 39,000. And the second measure is that they want to get rid of family reunification for migrants on a worker visa for healthcare. So if you're working in the NHS right now, you're a migrant on a visa, a regular migrant. Until now, you could get your family to join you in the UK, but they want to get rid of that too.
So those measures are focusing more on what's regular migration. And this comes after a series of other measures from the UK that were focusing more on irregular immigration. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so it's been a while that the government is very hardline on immigration, proposing a lot of hardline measures. You could say there's a sort of policy of spectacle on immigration right now in the Tory government. One of those key measures that a lot of people have heard about is the floating barge. So the UK rolled out a floating prison, a floating detention center for asylum seekers. That was rolled out this year. The first batch of people that they sent had to be taken away, because, removed from that barge because they found bacteria in it. Someone even tried to commit suicide at the idea of going there. But they brought people back in since then, and it's an operational detention center now. So we have that floating prison operating right now. And the second big measure so you see that floating prison on the screen right now. And the second big measure that's also part of this sort of policy of spectacle is the deportation to Rwanda policy. So the idea was to deport asylum seekers that reached the UK in irregular ways to Rwanda and get them to apply for asylum in Rwanda for Rwanda. But after a bunch of condemnation for courts and then European Court of Human Rights, the UK Supreme Court last month finally blocked that measure, saying that it would violate, unanimously they said that it would violate international rights that are enshrined in UK law. And so you can say, but in spite of that, the Tories are not backing down. Quite the opposite right now. There is actually calls from the Tories to ignore that ruling altogether. The government is already planning to find legislation to still deport people to Rwanda. So this is still ongoing. You could say there's a sort of escalation in anti-immigration measures in the UK right now.
And it seems like a lot of the rhetoric and a lot of the focus is on crossings over the English Channel.
Yes, so you're going to see the numbers coming on screen. Until a few years ago, there weren't that many people crossing by boat to reach the UK from France. People would take trucks. But France and the UK developed a whole infrastructure of surveillance to militarize the Dunkirk port and surveil trucks so that people wouldn't cross. But that sort of created a whole industry of smugglers trying to get people to the UK by boat. So last year, you're going to see the numbers. You see the numbers. Last year, there were about 49,000 people that crossed by boat, and this year were about 20,000, more than about 30,000 people that crossed. And although this might seem like a short distance, it's actually a very dense area, a lot of commercial boats crossing through this area. The currents are very strong and the water is extremely cold. It's a very dangerous place. And this year, about 9 people that we know of died crossing the channel.